Hello, welcome to Alcohol, Drugs, and Us. This is our premiere show,
Yes.
and we are here to
We're
talk.
back.
We're here to talk about stigma tonight. We're here to talk about stigma tonight, and I'm just excited that we are able to share. We're able to share about a very important word in the field. Um, we hear that word, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
hear
yeah,
stigma,
yeah.
and sometimes it really hinders people
It's
from
progress,
yeah
recovery.
from progress,
Yeah.
from recovery, all that.
Right.
And so we're gonna get into the topic. We'll give folks a couple of minutes just to kind of come on in here. We do welcome engagement. We do welcome engagement.
He
So
loves engagement.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the only one talking, right? I don't want to be the only one talking. But if you have a question, a comment about the term stigma, we're going to go through the definition of it
Yes.
and give some examples. So, how are you today?
Great, great. And how
Good.
about yourself?
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
You guys just don't know. I'm just coming in from work. He's been here getting everything all set up. And then, he's going to be looking at me like, you know what we're supposed to do. Yes, I do know what we're supposed to do. Praise God. I know what we're supposed to do.
Okay. It sounds good, at least for you. So, yeah, so we're talking about stigma. So, stigma.
also,
Go ahead.
also, I want to say something else.
Okay.
Happy Mother's Day. It's coming this
Mhm.
weekend. It's a big weekend for many, and for others, sometimes it can also be very difficult. So we pray the peace of God with each and every one of you as you celebrate, acknowledge, or whatever you may do on this coming Mother's Day.
All right. So, stigma, we want to talk about that today. And so, I want to just give you a definition. It says it's a set of negative and often unfair beliefs that a society or a group of people have about something. And then I was on the web and I found out that stigma has to do with a Greek and Latin word that means to burn or to tattoo or mark um, inflicted on another person to disgrace them, and so I thought that like that was so fitting because
Yeah,
people who have a drug addiction, people tend to label them, they tend to kind of snob them, and um, sometimes they're discriminated against because I think the attitude is that people could just willfully stop, right?
right, right,
They could just give up alcohol, they could just give up drugs, and that'd be the end of it.
right. But it's not just um with substance abuse.
Mm.
People have attach stigmas to all kinds of things that a lot of times is things that we can't change, like our race, like if
Hmm.
we're mentally ill, or if we were born with a certain birth defect or something like that. People tend to stigmatize those things that they find to be unfavorable, those things that they find a way to kind of shame you. I mean, how can you shame me about my race? I am what I am.
Hmm.
And people who are having a substance use disorder challenge, they are who they are for that moment. So shaming, some people think shaming you will encourage you to do the right thing, and
Oh, okay.
sometimes that is not always um, the answer.
Yeah, to try to make people feel bad
Feel,
about what they're doing
right,
and not understanding the disease, right?
right.
And
Feel bad because you suffer with major depression. What is it that you can do? Because I mean, what did you do to get such? You did nothing, but still people will stigmatize you because you have a mental illness, because you are schizophrenic, because you're anxious, because you're and one that's really been huge lately is obesity. How much shaming and
mm,
stigmatizing is going on with people being overweight or large or whatever. I mean, we hear a lot of that, especially in terms of body image and clothing and things like that. So again, it is thought that if you're large, then that's a negative thing, you know. So it's not just limited to one thing in our society, and it's there is no society that I'm aware of that doesn't have stigmas, whether
Yeah.
they are American, whatever. People across the world, you know, for some reason we like to identify people who quote unquote are different, and instead of embracing them, we will shun them or push them away because we don't know how to deal with their difference.
Yeah, yeah. So tonight we're going to get into like how to help people who do have stigmas against folks that use drugs. And so one of the things that I want the audience to know is that the brain does change with substance use. Right? It does get altered. It does get um, not the same before you started using drugs. So people get this diagnosis of a substance use disorder. And I'm going to share some language with you that you can use to kind of help sort of not make people be shamed, like you said, like not let people be disgraced. And so some of that language was developed around 2015 with Michael uh, I think his name is Bonicelli. Yeah, he was the drug czar for the United States, and he sort of came up with some terminology that we should be using to kind of better be accepting of people, right? Like a lot of times we say addict, they're an addict, and we actually came up with a better word, and that is a person with a substance use disorder.
Right. But I think sometimes people, and even when, and I'm generalizing, sorry, something's in my eye, but this weather is mad. People, when they say, you know, like, well, we'll just use Joseph. Joseph, you know, he's an addict. Joseph, you know, he's a drug addict. You know, I mean, we tend to put emphasis on that again to help us to engage in more shaming, more humiliation, because we know that that word has a lot of negativity.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so we will just, he's a drug addict, you know, and it's like, okay, so he doesn't count because he's a drug addict,
Right,
you know.
right.
Yeah.
And another term you can use is instead of saying drug addict, you could say a person with a serious substance use disorder, right? You know, just not someone with a substance use disorder, not someone who's using alcohol, using cocaine, using heroin, but they're severely using it, right?
Yeah.
So you could say person with a serious substance use disorder. So you can take that word addict out of your vocabulary and start saying some things like person with a substance use disorder, person with a serious substance use disorder. Okay. Now, alcoholic. We call folks an alcoholic, right? Alcoholic, wino, all those negative things. But we even found a new word for that one.
What's
You
that?
ready for it? All right. It's a person with an alcohol use disorder, folks. That's what we say.
Really?
That's what we say.
Well,
That's what we say.
I didn't realize that alcoholic is, well, part of me is lying. It is offensive. It is offensive,
Okay.
but it's, to me, it's better than so and so's a drunk. You know, because again, usually when people say someone's a drunk, it's, well, you know, Joseph McCray, he's a drunk. He's a drunk. You know, he's been a drunk. You know, we always want to emphasize and overemphasize that behavior, which we find to be disgraceful, you know, unfavorable or disliked.
Yeah.
You know?
And we don't say it real kindly.
No, because we say it with a whole lot of attitude.
Yeah,
He's a drunk.
right. We want to hurt people. So I want to help someone today. So instead of calling the person an alcoholic, you can let them know you learned that they are a person with an alcohol use disorder. Okay.
Okay.
So basically, what it says is,
So what's a smoker?
you call them for nicotine use disorder. Yeah, we call a smoker
So
person.
what's an overeater?
Uh, we don't have this terminology mainly focused on substance use. So I don't know what I won't make up something. I won't make up a overeater use disorder. I won't say that. But
Also, it's not an overeater use
I mean,
disorder.
I mean,
But I think the term morbid obesity is,
I mean that's a medical diagnosis,
yeah, but
right?
it's stigmatizing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you hear the word morbid, you don't think this. You
Well,
think
you got to know yeah,
morbid.
yeah, that's
You
pretty
know, I mean,
large.
I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I just can't really speak well on that one because I just don't deal with that group. But for substance users, I definitely can speak on that one. And then sometimes we can also use a person with a serious alcohol use disorder. And basically, what happens is the person's brain changed as a result of the alcohol and they develop a disorder. So it's easier to say that the substance brought on this change in this person than to say this person just willfully is an alcoholic. They just an addict, meaning that they elected to just kind of become this really terrible person that's not really regarded by society. But now we're starting to understand that hey, they use these substances for various reasons. Maybe trauma, maybe they just wanted to be a part of the group,
self medicating.
maybe they self-medicated, and then many times of use, long periods of use, brought on these conditions.
But
Right.
also, I mean, this is not exactly in the realm of substance abuse, but it's like you said, people's person's minds are altered. It's almost like a person who has dementia. Sometimes they do things that are just bizarre. And sometimes we try to hold them accountable for those things, but their minds, have been altered. And sometimes I think we, in a roundabout way, as a society, stigmatize those with that condition, which none of us have control over. Why is she saying that? Why does he have on that coat in July? Again, the mind has been altered, and when altered, you get a different result. Yes, I will stay focused, but you're the one who said altered mind.
Where did you get that from?
What?
You will stay focused. What happened?
Because you write notes.
Oh boy. Well, audience, this is alcohol, drugs, and us. The us part is what makes it very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, the Alzheimer's, but we can see the disease process with Alzheimer's, right? Like we can clearly go to certain chemicals, some genetics, we can trace it back. And people, I think, I would kind of disagree with you. People are more sympathetic about someone with Alzheimer's. They probably wouldn't stigmatize. They would probably say, "Oh my God, that's so bad. I'm so sorry to hear that." They would be,
Initially.
yeah, they probably would not at all like look down or disgrace them. They would just say, I just hope that doesn't happen to me. I'm sorry that happened to your loved one. But I think when you hear about someone with an alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder, I don't think they say, oh, that's terrible. They say they gotta get this up together. They should just stop. Why they doing this to you? Why they messing up the family and shaming everybody. So
why they disgracing the family?
Right, because they actually picked up the substance, right? They actually went down the alley and got the drug and
But
things like that.
if you think about what, even though you said I'm off focus, if you think about the person with dementia, their brain is altered in the same way that person who drinks alcohol brain is altered, so that when they pick up a drink, even though it looks like they're doing it by choice, is really something in here that's altered that makes them feel like they have to do that.
Yeah, but they didn't get introduced to something that did that. Like they didn't
Which they?
The Alzheimer's person didn't drink alcohol, they didn't uh take cocaine or take heroin, and as a result of it, it began to change their brain. And even though their brain was changing and their life was becoming unmanageable, they didn't continue in that behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Because they were not initially engaged in any behavior, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. I mean, I get it, but I think if you put on those Alzheimer's glasses, as you said, people are not as mean and malicious to those people. So if you could maybe not put on those full glasses, but see things in a similar way, then we wouldn't be so hard on people with these use disorders.
I agree. I agree that if people would sort of change their glasses, their focus of how
Yes,
they see
yes,
things. Okay,
yes,
okay, we can
yes,
come to that.
yes.
Um, I wanna throw another word out, and that is clean. You know, we use that word to say when someone is not using, and we even have people in the field that have to embrace the new word. You know, so the new word is they're abstinent. They're abstinent. Another couple of terms we use is drug free or drug negative. But we
But
try to
what?
get away from clean. Try to get away from clean.
But with this
Yeah.
getting away, it begs the question why.
Because those terms.
Or I guess what I want to say is what precipitated the getting away of the old vocabulary.
Because it just fed into it just promoted the negative attitudes people had. You know, if you're clean,
Then
you thought, wow, that's good. But then what if you're dirty, right? I mean, that's derogatory, you know, like, oh, you're dirty. I mean, no one wants to be dirty. Not a grown person, wants to be called dirty. Oh, or a counselor say, oh, my patient is dirty. Well, their urine was positive, It's that's not.
so people can't say they got a that they had a dirty urine.
Yeah, they don't have to say, "Oh man, I gave him a dirty urine." Well, what you put, like dust in it or something?
Well, kind of, sort of.
I mean, you put. I mean, it's
Kind of,
substances.
sort
It's
of.
substances in it, but it's not like you. It really says more to yourself. Like if your urine is dirty, then you're dirty, right? It came out of you, came out of your body, right? And if you're,
Well, sometimes.
maybe
Well,
where else is urine coming from? It's already coming
you
out your
might
body.
buy it from somebody.
Well, that's a whole other story. That ain't even your urine, right? So here's a word that I give you a word. See, I'm giving you the problem, and I'm also giving you the solution, right? So so dirty, the word that replace that is you're actively using. Okay, if you in a treatment center, or you um, have to give a urine for a job and it came back positive, you're actively using. Okay, because I mean that result is a result of a couple of days
So,
ago.
so you can say you're dirty drug addict. You have that dirty urine.
No, you can't say
That
that.
would be so
No,
inappropriate.
you can't say that if you watch this, if you see the podcast or hear the podcast, you can't say that anymore because someone just introduced you to better language, right?
Yeah,
You got to
yeah.
stay away from that. And then here's another term you can also say: they're positive for substance use, which I like that one. Positive for substance use. And also want to let you know, if you're out there in the audience, if you got a comment you want to share, do that. It's not just all about us. It is about you too. And so this is alcohol, drugs, and us, and so we include everybody, right? Because we can learn from each other. So that's what we say. We say actively using, positive substance use. And here's another term. I think this is the last one. Um, Someone has a drug habit. Yeah, someone has a drug habit. So I also sent a information in the comment section about stigma and how to overcome it and all that kind of stuff too, so you can kind of read too. But just now, as we talk a drug habit, what do you think is the word that we use to kind of the wording we use to sort of replace that you have a drug habit? Hmm?
I can't even.
You can't
No,
even
no,
phantom. Okay.
I can't.
Okay. So it's
But
substance.
somehow I knew it had substance in it.
Yeah, a substance use disorder, right?
Do you see how it would be difficult for some people to buy into these new terms?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
because because if you don't have the right mindset, or or if you're unwilling to let your mind evolve, then you will see something that society has pretty much said is a horrible thing. It's a bad
Hmm.
thing. Whereas you will try to make it seem, you'll use glossy words to try to cover up a very horrible thing. And I think sometimes you may have difficulty with getting people to buy in that, because people ultimately think, those who, oh my God, sorry, those who haven't let their minds evolve will ultimately still think negatively.
Yeah. So we know it's a process, right? But you have to begin somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on a committee for 3 days with a whole bunch of people, doctors, social workers, nurses. We were all trying to come up with ways to uh, help reduce stigma. We came up with all these different ideas, how to approach it, commercials, because it's a wall that's been up for a long time. And we have done the research and found that when better terminology is used, better language is used, people are more accepting. They feel like people care about them. They feel like they are somebody, that they are important. We like to say the diabetic, or the person who has diabetes, a person who has hypertension. That's all we basically are saying. The person who has a substance use disorder, right? You know,
But sometimes we say that, as you said, the diabetic, and sometimes we say the hypertensive.
right. But you can say I I have hypertension, right? You
So
know,
you can say, I have
I
substance
have a
use.
substance use disorder, right? I have I have diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
Um you don't have to say, like I'm a diabetic. But we may say that, but you could say I have this disease, I have this problem. And that's all we're trying to say, instead of saying like I am a drug addict. I
Mm-hmm.
am an alcoholic. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, I have an alcohol use disorder. I
Mm-hmm.
have a situation that when alcohol gets in my system, I get buck wild, I get crazy,
But
chemistry
sometimes,
gets out of order,
but
all kind of stuff.
sometimes you don't physically get buck wild.
No, you don't. I mean, it affects everybody differently, the substance. But one of the things that it does do when you get in a diagnosis of an alcohol use disorder, because that could be mild, moderate, it could be severe, it does change your ability to how you manage life. Okay. There is going to be some disruption in your ability of managing life, either at home or at work or in your health. And and like I said, it's going to be varying various degrees. It may be a mild alcohol use disorder. It may be a moderate. Maybe you are able to go to work. And that's why we get into that whole functioning thing. But I've learned that there's a level of functioning. Are you functioning at your full potential because of alcohol? Maybe you're probably not functioning at your full potential, but to everyone else, it look like you're functioning, right? And I'm also a believer that people are in jobs and using, the employer knows it. They look over it because you're a good worker. They don't want to disrupt your family. They don't want to find another employee. So they tolerate you. I mean, I heard stories all the time about guys who use and go and work in construction sites or labor jobs, things like that, that their boss ain't worrying about that. It's just as long as you
Because they're
showed
just
up.
worrying about productivity.
They need you to dig that hole, or move that pipe. You know, Hopefully you
Yet,
don't fall on you because you're
or
under the influence or something.
or if they moving that pipe on your block or in your house, the pipe not move right, and then something
Yeah.
happens as a result.
Right.
City life.
You all heard the commercial there? We had a siren going. Okay. Yeah.
It's called
So.
city life.
So yeah. So it happens. It happens. But the whole goal of it is to get out of the rain. Get out of the rain of not being connected, not feeling like you count, not feeling like you are somebody, and coming into treatment so that you can get your life back together. The whole purpose of alcohol, drugs, and us is to help people get their lives back together, right? To share a message about recovery, let you know about some of the problems people have, and then how do you find a solution, right? Well, one way you can start is you can start getting some better language, right? You can start saying,
Acquire different vocabulary
yeah, yeah,
so that you will present yourself as being more user friendly to those who are struggling
yeah,
with substance use disorder.
yeah, absolutely. And guess what, folks? This workshop is something that doctors and nurses and other health professionals need too, because they don't even know that the language has changed. And then, sadly, sometimes we run into counselors who are still saying clean, who are still saying dirty, and we fortunately we got some great doctors that I work with who will stop you and get you to use the appropriate language. And so it's a process. It's going to take a while, right? This is 2023. This was sort of introduced like in 2015. But we've been dealing with addiction for decades, right? We've been saying all these words that have not been conducive. So it's a process, and this is just one more um,
Tool in your
tool, yeah,
toolbox.
tool in your toolbox. But I was going to say this is one more. I guess could I say like vehicle? This social media is a vehicle, a way to kind of get information to
Way to
you.
drive it home.
Yeah, yeah, the
Drive it
way to
home. We're
drive
going
it
to drive it
home.
home that we can retrain our brains to think and to say words differently. And those saying those words differently may indeed help someone to seek the help that they need. Now, because you say these words differently and they get the help that they need, it doesn't mean that you won't have to say them again to the same person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people do struggle. Just like if any of us struggle with eating food, I do.
What?
I do. I like to eat certain foods. So you have to you may have to tell me more than once, and you may have to say to that person more than once, hey, you know, we care about you. We know you have the substance use disorder, and we want to drive you in the right direction to get the help that you need.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have anything else.
No, we don't want to. We don't want to
Yeah.
belabor the point, but
Mhm.
we just want you to know that as the Bible tells us about the tongue.
Hmm.
Tell us what. Tell us the verse.
Death and life is in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18, I want to say 21, 18:21.
So way before people had all these conversations and conferences, the word was already there to tell you what this could do to others and how harmful it could be to others.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
And we didn't open with prayer.
No, we didn't. But you want to close in prayer? I mean, this is all new. This is like the first show, so
Okay.
we really
The
didn't
first
get.
show.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever done an
What kind
alcohol
of show?
drug?
What kind of show is this?
It's a
This is
show.
an educational training.
This
Which
is not
one
a
show?
training. This is a show that's on
It's a
Facebook. That's
show.
on. It's a broadcast. It's a is a vehicle. It's a way
It's a,
to put out to Facebook and the social media world about alcohol, about drugs, about stigma. I mean, we all have
you are
different
bigger
topics.
than any stigma.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, you're bigger than any stigma. So don't let that stigma keep you from getting through those doors. You're bigger than that. You're bigger than this. We are all bigger than these stigmas that others want to put on us. Keep going, keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely agree. So, yeah. So I didn't know you want to pray.
Mr. Pray.
Oh, okay. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity uh, to just share, to just have the discussion, right? To just have the discussion. So many people are just going through difficulty because they're just not even having the discussion. They're not even talking about the elephant sitting right in the room.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes,
so
yes,
God,
yes, yes.
we talk about the elephant. We want people to get freedom, to get deliverance, and we know your word one step for people as well. And we just thank you that those who will listen to this and be encouraged to seek out treatment, to change their language, to reduce stigma, to allow people to feel accepted. And we pray that in Jesus' name. All right, folks.
One more thing I want to I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
I think a lot
Oh, I
of
got a comment.
people have I don't know the right word, but I think COVID has caused people to probably use to to abuse substance more, but people aren't coming out with it. Because I think the isolation of COVID did a lot to us.
Yeah, yeah, it did, and we're just collecting that data. I mean, we already know that there's been a rise in alcohol-related deaths because of COVID. We used to have numbers around 90,000. Now we're up to 140,000 a year. People dying from alcohol-related problems, liver problems, homicides, suicides, accidents. We also know that opioid overdoses has increased because of COVID. Treatment was reduced. Okay, that was one problem. Also, people isolated, and isolation restricted them from being able to seek out help, right?
Yes, yes,
For
yes,
and for people to be able
yes,
to know that they was even having a problem.
yes, yes, yes.
When everything else closed, liquor stores did not close, and so people had access. They had
Yes,
access, and so the treatment world is trying to rebound and
yes, yes,
get people in treatment.
yes.
And but strangely, I don't see like treatment centers packed with people. I mean, even residential places, outpatient places, they're just not packed. I'm not sure like what that's all about. Like,
Yes, yes.
have people just reserved the idea that I'm just gonna stay in this addiction
Right,
or
right,
what?
right, right.
And I know like we've had the commercials about it and things like that, and we try to push it, but I don't see like this huge overflow of people seeking treatment. And when the weather's good, that makes it even more difficult because people couldn't live out on the streets. They don't have uh, uh, a problem with that. But we got some comments here. Let me take some of these. Uh, Nelby said, "Thank you guys, great work." And then Kim Bryant says, "I love this, seeing a nurse and social worker trying their best to help us. Powerful. Keep up the good work. Thank you for encouragement, both of you." Yeah. So, yeah, COVID. I mean, we blame everything on COVID, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I
But
think but I think
definitely COVID did something with the substance use and
yeah,
mental illness too. It really
yeah.
the biggest word I just think it just isolated people. It just isolated them. It caused a lot of anxiety.
So you could have your drink at home and no
Yeah.
one could really see
Yeah.
you
And
or or even know that you were developing a
And
disorder.
right, and people were really afraid, right? I mean, people were afraid to come out. People were afraid to get COVID. Um, and the one thing they could do is go to the store, get their alcohol,
Mhm.
come back home, watch their TV, eat their
Mhm.
food. The government was throwing all kind of money out there for food.
Don't blame it on the government.
Well, I'm just
Don't
saying. I
blame
mean,
it on the
some of
government.
those things made it much more accommodating for you to continue. And so we're still wrestling with that. I mean, we're only 3 years since COVID was
Right.
kind of brought to
And I
our
think
country.
one day in the future, we're going to do we're going to gather some info and talk about that, huh?
Oh, we are.
I think it's a great topic because I think now, especially since now the COVID restrictions from the federal government are all being lifted, and any kind of protections that were there or thing, they're all going to, I mean, this summer the roof is coming off of so many things. So I just think we will have an abundance of things to talk about.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds good. I like to bring a guest. I
Yeah.
like to bring a guest in who can kind of speak from the COVID
Yeah,
point of
maybe
view. We'll find somebody.
doctor from Cam.
Oh, we had him before,
Uh,
Dr.
Hayes.
Hayes. He's a
Yeah.
great man. But I'm looking for somebody maybe who has looked at COVID and as it relates to substance use. Like I mean,
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
all they were into
Yes,
doing.
yes.
Looking at this number, that number, and they could
well,
just like
you
kick
work.
it out like bop, bop, bop.
Yeah, but you work at the place that was on CNN nightly with the COVID count. Johns Hopkins had the COVID count running nightly.
Right. I mean, I work with some great doctors and have seen some of the infectious disease doctors, but can they also convey how that affected substance use? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I'm sure someone has done the research. They probably got the paper out there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of connecting them and asking them to be a guest to kind of share with us.
Yes.
But I mean, overall, the research I've kind of come across, it's just
unfortunate.
that big isolation just really really did it. And then access to care, two big problems: isolation and access to care. You just couldn't get care. I mean, people were going to bring you in their center and get COVID.
I think even in the hospitals now, we're starting to see people come in, and it's like, oh my goodness, where have you been? Well, of course, we were all, but they're coming in with a multitude of ailments because no one went out. So
yeah,
that's a good thing. He's writing me notes.
All
Stop.
right.
I didn't.
I have to be the engineer here, as well as the host. So we just want to thank you all. Appreciate your encouragement. Appreciate your words. We will be back. We're going to do this the second Thursdays of the month. We'll see how things flow, and maybe we might add another day out of the month. I am thinking about another day, but I won't say anything now.
Yeah.
But because I think a month is a long time to kind of wait to kind of hear information. So we'll juggle it around, see how it works. But appreciate you all, and definitely
stop. I'm gonna see. No, he's stop. Tell him stop.
Folks, we got to go. This okay. Thank you. Have a great evening. Great evening.